This is Mr. Nightfall, and tonight's episode might make you think twice before sleeping alone. There's something eerily familiar about waking up in the dark. That frozen second when your eyes are open but your body won't move. You tell yourself it's just sleep paralysis, just your mind playing tricks. But what if it isn't? What if something else is awake in that silence? Something watching, waiting for the moment you realize you're not alone. Settle in, turn down the lights. Because what you're about to hear might follow you into your dreams. I woke up in the dark. My eyes were open, my mind was awake, but I couldn't move a single muscle. At first I thought it was a dream, that strange moment when you think you're awake but your body isn't listening. The clock on my nightstand glowed 3:11 a.m., the same time it always seemed to happen. I tried to lift a hand, nothing. Tried to turn my head, still nothing. Even my breathing felt trapped inside my chest. Then I saw it, at the foot of the bed. A shape, tall, still, too tall to be my coat rack, too still to be human. The kind of shadow that doesn't fade, even when your eyes adjust to the dark. At first, I blamed exhaustion. Night shifts at the hospital had wrecked my sleep for years. I thought my mind was just misfiring, but the air felt heavy, like someone else was in the room, breathing, watching, waiting. The shadow shifted, just a step. Barely a sound, but I felt it, like static crawling over my skin. I wanted to scream, but my throat was locked tight. My heart pounded so hard I could almost hear it echoing. Then came the pressure. Something heavy pressing down on my chest. Not a hand, not a person, just weight. It felt like the air itself had turned solid. I could feel every beat of my heart pushing against it. And then it leaned closer. Right beside my ear, it whispered my name. Not like a question, like it was tasting it, rolling it over its tongue, enjoying it. My eyes burned with tears I couldn't blink away. The outline of a face formed, faint and wrong, bending with the darkness around it. And then my phone lit up on the nightstand. The screen glowed pale blue. The camera app was open. Video recording. It showed me, lying there, frozen, eyes wide. And behind me, something moved. A shadow, rippling, bending closer toward my reflection on the screen. I could see its shape clearer now, like smoke trying to take form. It tilted its head, slow, curious, almost smiling. I tried to scream again. I could hear the sound trapped in my throat, strangled by the weight pressing me down. Then, everything went black. When I finally woke, sunlight was pouring through the blinds. I could move again. My body ached like I'd been held down all night. The phone lay face down beside me. The camera app was closed, no video saved, no evidence, nothing. But the sheets at the foot of the bed were pulled tight, indented, as if someone had been sitting there, watching me sleep. And when I looked at the clock, it still said 3:11 a.m. That morning. I told myself it was just sleep paralysis, a hallucination brought on by exhaustion and stress. I'd read about it before. The brain wakes up before the body does, they said. You imagine things, you see shadows, you feel pressure. Perfectly explainable, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had been there, watching, waiting. That night, I tried everything. Lights on, TV playing softly, even sleeping pills. For a while it worked. I drifted off sometime after midnight. When I woke, I knew it was happening again. The same stillness, the same suffocating weight, the same silence that pressed against my eardrums. Only this time I wasn't lying flat. My body was tilted, like the bed was slightly angled downward toward the foot, and the air was colder than before. My breath came out in a faint mist, white in the dark. The shadow was already there, closer now. Not just at the foot of the bed, leaning forward, its head almost brushing the ceiling. Its shape flickered like candlelight, edges shifting in and out of focus. And then I heard the sound again. The breathing. Slow, ragged, but not human. Like air being dragged through waterlogged lungs. It stepped forward and I felt the mattress dip. The whole bed creaked under its weight. It stopped inches from my legs. I could see the faint outline of its hand, or what looked like one. Long, thin, trembling slightly. The weight on my chest grew heavier. My pulse slowed, my vision blurred. I thought I was dying. Then, it whispered again. My name. But not just my name this time. It said, "You're awake now. Don't move." Something brushed my ankle. Cold. Damp. My heartbeat stopped for a full second. My phone lit up again, the same faint blue glow. The camera was on, recording by itself. The lens pointed straight at me. On the screen, I saw the shape clearly for the first time. a pale face hovering just above mine, featureless, except for two dark, hollow spaces where eyes should have been. It tilted its head again. Then, slowly, its mouth began to open, impossibly wide, until it reached the edges of its face. No teeth, no tongue, just darkness. The pressure on my chest vanished. The room went silent. The phone screen went black. I gasped, finally able to move. I threw myself out of bed, shaking, drenched in sweat. When I looked at the phone, the video was gone again. Deleted. Nothing in the trash folder. Nothing in the cache. But the clock, still 3:11 a.m. I left the apartment that night, didn't even take my clothes, slept in my car until sunrise. A week later, I returned with movers to collect my things. The bed was still there, the sheets flat. The room smelled faintly of cold air and metal. But when one of the movers bent down to unplug the phone charger, he froze. There was something carved into the wood beneath the bed. Faint, jagged letters scratched into the frame. 3 words. Still watching. Hannah. Story 2. The Sleep Experiment Apartment. Story provided by Colin S. I didn't choose the apartment because it was perfect. I chose it because it was cheap. When you're a broke college student surviving on instant noodles and caffeine, a half-renovated unit 2 blocks from campus feels like a blessing. The ad said, quiet neighborhood, top floor, utilities included. The only weird thing was the price. It was less than half of anything nearby. The landlord said he just wanted good tenants, young people, preferably students. So I signed the lease that same day. The building itself had that old, echoing feel. Narrow hallways, yellow walls, the faint smell of bleach and damp wood. My roommate Drew was an easygoing guy from my computer science class. He took one look at the place and laughed. Feels like a horror movie set, he said. We both laughed, but he wasn't wrong. Still, the first week was fine. We went to class, streamed movies, argued about takeout. The only weird thing was the temperature. The bedroom I took was always colder than the rest of the apartment, even with the vent closed. I told myself it was bad insulation. The first time it happened, it was around 3 a.m. I woke up, completely alert, but my body wouldn't move. My eyes were open, my brain was screaming, but I couldn't even twitch a finger. At the foot of the bed stood something. A tall outline, darker than the dark around it. My eyes strained, trying to focus. It didn't move, didn't breathe. My heart thudded so loud I swore it would wake Drew. And then, like a switch flipping, I could move again. I shot up, gasping, drenched in sweat. The corner was empty. Sleep paralysis. That's what I told myself. Just sleep paralysis. The next few nights were normal. I brushed it off, joked about it in class, even told Drew, who just said, dude, lay off the caffeine. But then it came back. Every night, closer. I'd wake up, unable to move, and the shadow would be there. Not just at the foot of the bed anymore, but beside it, closer each time. And I swear, it was watching. On the 5th night, I felt pressure, like a hand pressing lightly on my shoulder. I tried to scream, but my throat locked. Tears rolled down my face, but I couldn't wipe them away. When it finally let go, I turned on every light in the room and sat there until sunrise. The next morning, I decided to record it. I needed proof that this was real, or maybe proof that I was crazy. I propped my phone on my desk, camera aimed at the bed, and hit record. That night, I actually slept fine, or thought I did. When I checked the video the next morning, my stomach dropped. The recording showed me sleeping peacefully until around 3:02 a.m. Then, without warning, I sat up. My eyes opened wide, but they weren't looking at the camera. They were fixed on something just beyond the lens. My lips moved, whispering, slowly, repeatedly. No sound. Just me, sitting there in the dark, speaking to something. Then, for half a second, the camera glitched, and a figure appeared beside the bed. Too tall to be Drew, too still to be human. And then the feed cut out. I showed it to Drew. He tried to laugh, but his face drained of color halfway through. Man, you probably sleepwalk, he said. But I could tell he didn't believe it. That night, I moved my phone to the nightstand, closer this time, just a few inches from where my head would rest. I wish I hadn't. Around 3:10 a.m., I woke up again, frozen. Same feeling, heavy chest, body locked, throat sealed shut. But this time I didn't just see it, I felt it. Cold hands pressed into my arms, pinning me down. I couldn't see its face, but its presence filled the room, thick, suffocating, intelligent, and then it leaned close. so close that I could feel the air shift, hear the faintest whisper against my ear. It said my name. Not like someone calling to you, like someone tasting it. When I broke free, I fell out of bed gasping. The lights flicked on by themselves, every bulb in the room blazing. I sat there until dawn. The next morning, bruises ringed my arms. Perfect ovals, finger marks. Drew saw them. He didn't joke this time. Dude, maybe we should, I don't know, get out for a few days. But I had to know. I needed to see. So I watched the second video. At first it was the same, me sleeping, turning, restless. Then at 3:09 I froze. My chest rose and fell, but my body didn't move. From the corner, the camera caught a flicker, like static, and then it stepped into frame. A figure, tall, skeletal thin, with limbs too long, head bent sideways like it was listening. It crouched beside the bed, slowly leaned forward, and then another shape appeared, identical to me. Same pajamas, same hair, sitting upright in the bed while my real body lay motionless. Two of me, one breathing, one not. The video cut there. Drew packed his bags the next morning. He didn't say goodbye, he just left. I tried calling the landlord, demanding to know what was wrong with this place. He hesitated before answering. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You're in 3B, right? That unit wasn't supposed to be rented." He explained that 10 years ago, the university leased that entire floor for a private sleep study, something to do with lucid induction, using extreme sensory deprivation. But something went wrong. Participants started hallucinating, hearing voices, hurting themselves in their sleep. The lab shut down. Half the equipment was destroyed, the rest sealed inside the walls. I hung up before he could finish. That night, I didn't even try to sleep. I sat in the living room with every light on, staring at the door to my room. At exactly 3:11 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. A video message. It was my bedroom, filmed from above, from inside the ceiling vent. I was lying there asleep, mouth slightly open, and in the corner, that same dark figure, bending over me. I deleted the message and left that night with nothing but a backpack and my laptop. I never went back. A few months later, I stumbled across an online archive of the university's old projects. One entry was labeled Somnus Protocol, Cognitive Contagion via Sleep Paralysis Induction. The description said, subjects reported shared hallucinations consistent across environments. In rare cases, entity perception persisted after relocation. I shut the page, closed my laptop. But that night, when I finally fell asleep, I felt it again. Pressure on my chest, a whisper at my ear. Only this time it didn't say my name. It laughed, and when I opened my eyes, the corner of the room was darker than it should have been. Like something was standing there, waiting for me to fall asleep again. Story 3. Eyes in the Closet. When I was 12 years old, I used to see eyes in my closet every single night. Not glowing cartoon eyes, not like the silly monsters kids imagine, but dull, pale circles, like candlelight through fog. They didn't move, they didn't blink, they just watched. Every night, I'd lie frozen under my blanket, counting seconds until I could convince myself they weren't real. Sometimes I'd whisper for my mom, sometimes I'd squeeze my eyes shut so tight I'd see colors. But the second I opened them again, those eyes were still there. I told my parents, of course. My dad laughed. My mom said I was seeing shapes in the dark. My older brother called me a baby. They told me to keep my closet door shut. So I did. But the eyes, somehow they were still there, like they could see through the door. I remember one night more vividly than any other. It was winter. The heater was broken, and I'd fallen asleep buried under layers of blankets. Sometime after midnight, I woke up suddenly, wide awake but unable to move. At first, I thought I was dreaming, but then I realized I could feel the cold air against my skin, could hear the house creaking, and my eyes were open. Only my eyes. Everything else was locked in place. My arms, my legs, even my breathing felt shallow, mechanical. My mind screamed at me to move, but I couldn't. And then, I saw them. The closet door was slightly open, just an inch, maybe 2. And behind that sliver of darkness were the eyes, watching me, still and patient. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. My throat felt like it was filled with sand. I remember tears running down my temples, soaking into the pillow. Then something changed. The eyes blinked, not a flicker, not a trick of the light, a slow, deliberate blink, like it wanted me to know it was real. The air in the room shifted. I could feel pressure against my chest, like someone leaning on me. I wanted to die right there just so it would stop. Then suddenly, release. I gasped, shot upright, and the closet door was shut again. I ran to my parents' room, shaking, hysterical. My mom said it was sleep paralysis, something about my brain waking up before my body did. She said the eyes were hypnagogic hallucinations. But even at 12, I knew what I saw. After that night, I started sleeping with the light on. My parents got annoyed, but I didn't care. Eventually, they replaced the door with one of those sliding mirrored ones, the kind that reflect your whole room, and that helped for a while. I grew up, moved out, tried to forget. But some memories don't fade, they just wait. 15 years later, I was 27, living alone in a small apartment across town. It was quiet, clean, ordinary. The kind of place you feel safe in. That year, my sleep had been terrible. Long nights awake scrolling on my phone, dreading the mornings. I started having small bouts of paralysis again, just a few seconds at a time. It felt familiar, almost nostalgic in a way I hated. Then one night in late October, it came back full force. I woke up around 2:50 a.m., eyes wide open, body completely frozen. My mind snapped instantly into that old terror, that same 12-year-old panic. I could see my whole bedroom in the dim blue light from the street lamp outside. My dresser, the open window, the half-closed closet door. And just like that, I felt it. That same watching presence. The door was open, maybe 6 inches, just enough to see the dark interior, and within it, faintly, 2 round shapes. I blinked hard, convinced I was imagining things. But when I opened my eyes again, the shapes were still there. The longer I stared, the more they came into focus. 2 eyes, pale, reflecting light that shouldn't exist in the dark. I tried to tell myself they weren't real, that it was the same trick my mind had played years ago. But then I heard it, a whisper. Not in the room, not outside, inside my head. A low voice humming just beneath my thoughts. Words I couldn't make out, but I could feel them. Cold and sharp, threading through my skull like static. And then, the eyes blinked again. I wanted to scream, but my throat locked. My heartbeat thundered so loud I thought I'd pass out. The whisper grew clearer, syllables forming, almost curious. Still awake? I don't know how long I lay there before I finally snapped free. I lunged for the light switch, flooding the room in harsh white light. The closet was empty. I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. When I finally convinced myself it was stress or exhaustion, I decided to face it. To prove to myself there was nothing there. That night, I left the closet door wide open. It sounds stupid, but I thought maybe facing it would break the pattern. Like shining light on a nightmare. Sometime after 3 a.m., I woke again. Frozen, only this time the closet wasn't empty. There was a figure standing inside, tall, motionless, and the eyes, they weren't glowing anymore. They were human. I could see the whites, the pupils. The person, whoever they were, was standing so still I couldn't even tell if they were breathing. My chest felt crushed. I tried to move, to make any sound, but nothing worked. Then the whisper came again, not inside my head this time, but from the closet itself. A voice, low and broken. You shouldn't have left the light on. I blacked out. When I woke up, sunlight was streaming through the blinds. The closet door was shut tight. I told myself it had been a dream, even though I could still smell something faint, like old sweat and metal. Later that morning, I found fingerprints on the inside of the closet door. Greasy, dark smudges, human-sized. I called the police, trembling so hard I could barely explain. They came, searched the apartment, even checked the vents. Nothing. No forced entry, no signs of anyone else. One of the officers pulled me aside and said quietly, "Miss, this isn't the first time we've been called to this building for closet incidents." That's all he'd say. They dusted for prints, took photos, and left. A week later, I called to ask about results. The detective paused before answering. He said the fingerprints didn't match anyone in their system. But what scared me most wasn't that they were unidentified. It was where they found them. They weren't on the outside of the closet door, where you'd expect someone to push in. They were on the inside, as if someone had been pressing their palms outward, trying to open it from within. I moved out that weekend, left almost everything behind. It's been 3 years since then, and I still can't sleep with my closet door closed or open, because some nights when I wake up between dreams, I swear I can feel them again. That slow, patient stare, And once, only once, I saw 2 faint circles in the mirror across from my bed. Just eyes, blinking. Story 4. The Man on the Ceiling. Story provided by Brian L. I used to think the worst part of living alone was the silence. After the divorce, I'd lie awake every night in a 1-bedroom apartment that felt more like an echo chamber than a home. The fridge hummed, pipes groaned, the clock on the wall ticked just a little too loud. I told myself it was loneliness, or insomnia, or maybe both. But then the noises started coming from above me. At first it sounded like mice, soft scratching across the ceiling, slow and rhythmic. But the building was new, no attic, no crawl space, just drywall, insulation, and the flat roof above my unit. The sound came every night around 3 in the morning. Scratch, scratch, a pause, then another, a little longer this time. I tried banging the ceiling with a broom handle. The noise would stop for a moment, then start again right after I drift back towards sleep. I recorded it on my phone once. When I played it back, I realized something that made my skin crawl. It wasn't random. It had a pattern, like something moving deliberately. Slow, deliberate, pacing back and forth above me. It got to the point where I started sleeping on the couch, but the sound followed. I'd hear it move across the ceiling of the living room, stopping directly over my head no matter where I lay. I told my building manager. He said the roof access was sealed, checked the vents, shrugged. "You've been under a lot of stress, Brian. Try melatonin." Melatonin didn't help. Whiskey didn't either. Then came the paralysis. The first time it happened, I woke to that familiar scratching. My eyes opened, but the rest of me stayed locked in place. I couldn't even twitch a finger. My breathing grew shallow, heartbeat violent in my ears. The scratching stopped, and something shifted. The ceiling creaked, a soft groan like weight settling onto old wood. Then, silence. For a full 30 seconds, I couldn't hear a thing, until I realized the sound wasn't gone. It had changed. What I was hearing now was breathing, slow, ragged, and close. It wasn't above me anymore. It was right over me. The air felt thicker, heavy, charged with static. I tried to convince myself it was just the paralysis, that my mind was blending dream and reality. But then I smelled it, that wet, metallic scent you get from old pipes or dried blood. My eyes rolled upward, desperate to see what my body refused to move toward. And there, barely visible in the dim streetlight bleeding through the blinds, something moved. A pale hand, thin as bone, dragging itself along the ceiling. I wanted to scream, wanted to die. But all I could do was watch as that arm pulled more of it into view. A shoulder, a torso, a head that tilted far too far to one side. Its face was upside down, hanging inches above me. The mouth stretched into a smile that didn't belong on anything human. The scratching I'd heard for weeks wasn't in the ceiling at all. It had been its nails, dragging along the plaster from inside the room. And then, just as my lungs finally managed to gasp, the thing scuttled backward, impossibly fast, across the ceiling and disappeared into the corner above my closet. When I could move again, I turned on every light, every lamp, and stayed up until sunrise. I told myself it was a nightmare. Sleep paralysis, stress, my brain trying to process loneliness and exhaustion. For days, I avoided my bedroom entirely. I started sleeping at my desk with the lights on, headphones blasting white noise. But every time I closed my eyes, I felt it. That pressure above me, that unseen weight. A week later, I caught something on my phone camera by accident. I'd set it to record overnight just to prove to myself nothing was happening. The next morning, I scrubbed through the footage. Most of it was normal, dark, grainy, unremarkable. Until around 3:12 a.m. The frame shook slightly as if the phone itself vibrated. The lamp flickered once, then again. And then, in the far corner of the ceiling, something shifted. A faint silhouette crawling across the plaster, limbs bent at wrong angles. No sound, just movement. It crawled to the center of the ceiling and stopped directly above where I'd be sleeping if I'd been in bed. Then, as if it realized it was being watched, it turned its head toward the camera. The video ended there. I deleted the footage that same day. Some part of me knew that watching it again would be like opening a door I couldn't close. That night, I stayed with a coworker, told him my building had mold issues. But even there, on his couch miles away, I couldn't rest. Around 3 in the morning, I heard it again. The faintest scraping sound above us. I didn't tell him, didn't even look up. When I moved to a new apartment 2 towns over, Things got better, for a while. The air felt lighter. I slept, I laughed, I even started dating again. But eventually the scratching returned, always at 3, always above me. Hotels, motels, friends' couches, it didn't matter. The sound followed like an echo I couldn't shake. I started noticing marks on the ceilings wherever I stayed. Faint smudges, scratches, sometimes hand-shaped prints that weren't there the day before. I've stopped recording, stopped telling people, because I finally understand something that I wish I didn't. It's not the ceiling that matters. It's me. Wherever I sleep, it's there too, waiting for me to look up. Last week, I woke to the sound of plaster cracking. Dust fell across my pillow. I stared up, too scared to move, as a single pale fingertip pushed through the ceiling right above my face. It stayed there for almost a full minute, then slowly withdrew, leaving behind a tiny dark hole. I checked the next morning. There was no damage, no hole, just smooth paint. But that night, I heard the whisper for the first time. A voice, distorted and wet, murmuring from the ceiling in a tone that almost sounded playful. Closer tonight. Now I sleep with the lights on again, though it doesn't help. The glow just makes the shadows move slower, stretch longer. I know one night soon, I'll wake to that same scraping, that same creak of weight above me, and when I finally gather the courage to look up, he won't be on the ceiling anymore. They'll be standing right number 5. Story provided by Karen. I never used to be scared of sleeping on the couch. It was my comfort spot. Soft blanket, hum of the fridge in the kitchen, TV glow flickering against the wall. The apartment always felt safest at night when it was just me and that quiet buzz of electricity. It was a Friday. I remember because I'd just finished a late shift, too tired to drag myself to bed. I left the TV on a black screen, you know, that dim reflection where you can just barely see yourself. I think that's why I noticed it first. The last thing I remember before it happened was the sound of the ice maker, a soft crack and clatter from the kitchen. I must have drifted off for an hour or two. When I opened my eyes, it was still dark. The clock on the cable box read 3:11 a.m., and I couldn't move. At first, I thought maybe I was dreaming, that half-awake, half-trapped kind of feeling where your brain wakes up before your body does. My fingers twitched, or at least I thought they did, but they didn't. The only thing that moved was my breathing, slow, shallow, like something heavy was pressing down on my chest. Then I heard it, a whisper, inches from my ear. "Don't move. It can't see us if we stay still." I froze, not out of obedience, but pure panic. The voice sounded just like me. Same pitch, same tone, but wrong somehow. Like my voice played through a cracked speaker, distorted around the edges. I wanted to turn, to look, but my neck wouldn't budge. My eyes rolled as far as they could to the side, catching the faintest shimmer on the blank TV screen. Something moved behind me. Not fast, slow, careful, like it knew I was awake and wanted me to know it too. The reflection showed 2 shapes, mine on the couch and something darker hunched just behind me. That's when the whisper came again. "Don't breathe so loud, it listens." My throat tightened. My lungs burned from holding still. Every instinct screamed to move, to sit up, to run, but nothing worked. The TV screen flickered once, though it was unplugged. Just static for half a second, enough to see a shape in the reflection lean close to my ear. The whisper wasn't outside me anymore, it was inside. "You shouldn't have stayed here tonight." I tried to scream. I tried so hard I could taste blood from the pressure in my throat, but only a wheeze came out, quiet, pathetic, and swallowed by the silence. The air changed, colder, thicker. Something brushed across my hair, a fingertip, then another, tracing from the top of my head down toward my neck. I wanted to believe it was a dream, but dreams don't have texture. Dreams don't let you feel each strand of hair being moved one by one. The voice spoke again, still in my own tone, softer now. 10. It was counting. I didn't know what it meant or why, but every number felt like a warning. 9. The sound of shifting fabric behind me, like something crawling across the couch. 8. A smell rose in the air, damp, metallic, faintly sweet, like copper coins and wet dirt. 7. I could hear it breathing now, not fast, measured, curious. 6. The static on the TV pulsed again, and for a split second, the reflection showed eyes staring at the back of my head. Not glowing, not monstrous, human, too human. 5. I felt the fingers again, brushing, then gripping a lock of my hair gently, almost tenderly. 4. Every instinct screamed, but my body was a coffin. 3. The whisper turned wet, close enough that I felt the vibration of it against my ear. 2. It exhaled. Deep, shaky, almost like it was excited. Then came 1. And the inhale, long, dragging, like something breathing me in. When I could finally move, the first thing I did was throw myself off the couch. My legs barely worked, knees scraping the floor. I slammed on every light in the living room. Nothing. No one. The room looked exactly the same. Blanket half folded, empty coffee cup on the table, TV screen black and harmless. But the air was still wrong. Too still. Like everything was waiting. I stood there for almost an hour, listening. Every creak of the building made me jump. The hum of the refrigerator felt deafening. When I finally dared to look back at the couch, my stomach dropped. The cushions were sunken in 2 places, one where I'd been lying and one right next to it. Perfectly parallel. I tore the apartment apart that night. Checked every vent, every closet, under the couch, behind the fridge. Nothing. I didn't sleep again until daylight. The next morning, I tried convincing myself it was sleep paralysis, maybe a vivid hallucination. My brain had simply invented the voice, the presence, the reflection. That's what I told myself over and over. Until that evening, when my neighbor knocked. He said he'd heard voices from my apartment around 3 in the morning. 2 voices. Both of them sounded like me. I laughed it off, lied, told him I'd fallen asleep watching something loud. But inside, I was shaking so bad I could barely stand. That night, I unplugged the TV, moved it into the hallway, and tried sleeping in my bed. But at 3:11 again, like clockwork, my eyes opened on their own. I couldn't move. Not again. The whisper came back immediately. Inches from my ear, I told you not to move. This time I could feel breath on my skin. Cold, steady, real. I stared straight ahead, refusing to look, but the mirror on my dresser showed enough. A figure sitting on the edge of my bed, head tilted, face buried in shadow. The whisper shifted to the tone of pleading. Stay still. If you see it, it'll see you. I didn't listen. My eyes darted toward the mirror. The figure smiled. It wasn't a monster, not the way I imagined. It was me. Same face, same hair, except for the eyes. They were wrong. Too wide, too hollow, like they'd forgotten how to blink. It leaned close in the reflection, but I felt it in real life. Weight on the mattress pressing near my legs. And then it spoke, perfectly synchronized with my own voice. Move, and it stays. When I jolted awake again, the room was empty. But the reflection in the mirror still showed someone sitting beside me for a moment before fading into nothing. I moved out 2 weeks later, sold everything. New city, new job, new apartment. But some nights, I wake in the dark, just for a second, heart pounding. And I swear I hear it again. Don't move, it can't see us if we stay still. The other half of the couch still sits in my new living room, the one from that night. The cushions never fully rise back up. And sometimes, when I glance at the reflection of the TV after it shuts off, there's still a second shape sitting right next to mine. Paralysis isn't always just a dream. Sometimes what watches you in that frozen moment isn't waiting for you to wake up. It's waiting for you to look at it.